So breaking news, the Pope is dead.
Padre Francesco, Papa Francesco, all'infinito amore misericordioso.
Fratelli e sorelle.
He was a pope of many firsts. The first from Latin America, the first Jesuit, the first to take the name Francis. Pope Francis made one thing very clear from the very beginning, that his papacy would be different. Today, Pope Francis died. He was 88 years old. The news of his death came as a shock to many. The Pope was in hospital recently. He was battling double pneumonia. After weeks of treatment, he finally recovered. He was discharged a few days ago. Last week, he made some high-profile appearances. On Thursday, he visited a prison in Rome. On Saturday, he visited St. Peter's Basilica. On Sunday, he appeared on his balcony, to the surprise of the crowds. He did not lead the Easter services, but he did a tour of the piazza in his Pope mobile. He met and blessed hundreds of people. He also met with US Vice President J.D. Vance and even exchanged Easter greetings.
Not been feeling great, but it's good to see you in better health.
Earlier today, the news of his passing was made public. Thousands have already gathered in Vatican City. People are mourning. Some were seen crying. Tributes are pouring in from across the globe, including from world leaders. Pope Francis will be laid to rest outside the Vatican. This marks a significant departure from tradition. Typically, popes are buried beneath St. Peter's Basilica, but Pope Francis chose a different resting place. It will be the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore. In doing so, he becomes the first pope in a century to be buried outside the Vatican. Like we said, this pope was different. What is his legacy? How did he influence the Catholic Church? Was he able to reform it? Who will be the next pope, and how is the pope selected? Lots of questions. Let's look at the story of Pope Francis first. His name was Jorge Mario Bergoglio. He was born in 1936 in Argentina's Buenos Aires. He came from a family of Italian immigrants. Pope Francis described himself as an Argentine raised on pasta. He once swept floors, worked as a nightclub bouncer, and studied chemistry. Later, he gave it all up to become a Jesuit priest. He was ordained in 1969. In 2001, he became a cardinal. In 2005, he initially sought to become pope, but ended up there only in 2013.
Fratelli e sorelle, buonasera.
His vision for the papacy was simple: strip away the pomp and return to the gospel. He ditched the papal palace for a guest house. He usually flew economy. He cooked his own meals. He auctioned off his Harley Davidson. He snuck out at night to feed the homeless. In some ways, Pope Francis was a traditionalist, like on issues of abortion and celibacy for priests. In other matters, he broke the traditional papal mold. He allowed blessings for same-sex couples.
Se una persona è gay,
If someone is gay and he searches for the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to
ha buona
judge?
volontà, ma chi sono io?
He tried to clean up financial corruption in the Vatican. He appointed more women to leadership roles, urged for immediate climate action, built bridges with the Muslim world, sought to play peacemaker in conflicts, called for a ceasefire in Gaza and Ukraine, and asked for compassion for refugees. The Pope faced two big challenges. One was tackling clerical sexual abuse in the church. He tried to address it, even issued an edict to report it. But he was accused of not doing enough. The other challenge was Catholicism losing ground. Country after country is seeing massive drops in church attendance. There are fewer baptisms. People may still identify as Catholic culturally, but they do not practice it. The church's moral rigidity often alienates people. Younger generations are seeking meaning elsewhere. So Pope Francis had to tackle that, which is why he traveled extensively, especially in Africa and Asia. In fact, his last trip was a 12-day visit to Asia. Now, these are places where Catholicism is booming, and the Pope wanted to support it. Even when his knees gave out, he traveled in a wheelchair. Now that he's gone, his successor will have to take this effort forward. But who will that be? Who will be the successor? For now, the Vatican has appointed an acting head. He is called the Camerlengo. After the Pope is buried, the search for a new Pope begins. It starts with a private gathering at the Vatican called the Conclave. Now, technically, any Roman Catholic male can be elected Pope. He is chosen by a group called the College of Cardinals. For the selection of the Pope, every cardinal under the age of 80 travels to Rome. Once they arrive at the Vatican, the process begins. The voting takes place in the Sistine Chapel. Each cardinal receives a ballot and writes the name of the candidate they want to elect. But they cannot vote for themselves. If a cardinal gets more than 2/3 of the vote, he becomes the Pope. If no one reaches that threshold, 2/3 of the vote, voting continues. They repeat that process. Sometimes it takes days until a decision is made. The entire process is secretive. Voting is done behind closed doors. No talking to anyone outside the room. No phones or cameras. The Sistine Chapel is off limits to all. Once the vote is cast, the ballots are burned with a special chemical. If the smoke is white, the world knows that a new pope has been chosen. If it is black, it means the voting is still on. And the world waits. The smoke is a signal, a way for the outside world to stay updated on the progress. So who could be the next pope? A lot of names are doing the rounds, but here are the top 3 ones. Peter Turkson from Ghana, Louis Tagle from the Philippines, and Peter Erdo from Hungary. If any of the first 2 are chosen, he would be the first pope ever from Asia or Africa. Of course, the choice is up to the cardinals, but Pope Francis realized something early on in his papacy, that the church is not a museum, it is a living thing. And all living things must change with time. The church must change too. Now it is up to the Vatican. They can either shut the door on Pope Francis's reforms or push it open further.
So Pope Francis has been pronounced dead today on the 21st April 2025. So the Pope, who has been suffering from different illnesses, who have been diagnosed of different illnesses, has been officially pronounced dead today, 21st April 2025. So, well, I personally am not surprised because, you know, there has been several predictions in the past, especially 2 to 3 years ago, that someone predicted that the Queen Elizabeth was going to die or step down from the throne, and the Pope also would either die or also, you know, be taken out and be replaced by a different Pope. But the juicy aspect of the Pope's prediction was that he was going to be replaced by a black Pope.
There's another event that is unfolding very rapidly. It's about Pope Francis. You know, we are entering into a dispensation, or should I say actually that we have entered into a new dark dispensation. Pope Francis is sick. The information I got is that he's diagnosed with colon cancer, or one of these cancer brands. He thought that he could pull through, but the thing is getting worse and worse by the day. So we are looking at a situation where Pope Francis may be resigning in the next few weeks or months, probably by August or before then, who knows. And when he resigns, the information I am getting from the grapevine is that a black pope will come forth for the first time. A black pope. And I also hear at the same time that this black pope is going to emerge from the Vatican to replace Pope Francis, the queen will be on her way out of the throne. And then there will be a new king in England. So by virtue of that, you have a situation where we have a black pope, we have a new king, and we have all kinds of new people coming from different other areas where there are going to be changes. And these new leaders that are going to emerge in this season will now be the ones to lead the world in this dark dispensation, where evil will no longer officially be called evil. I want you to save this video as reference, and you will see it for yourself. There will be too many justifications for all the evil that will come upon our world. There will be a lot to go around, just like what is happening in America. Biden is making the kind of mistakes that I don't see any human being alive making and getting away with it. But today the media is even defending him. They are not only defending, they are helping him to make his point, even when he's not making any point. They will have enough reasons to tell you why this has to be, why this evil has to actually be good, and why the good has to be evil. We are entering into a new dispensation. So if all my sources are right and can be trusted, you should be looking forward to a black pope take the place of Pope Francis. And that will be the dawning of a new dark dispensation for our world. Not because he's a black man, but because whenever evil or darkness is about to dawn on our world, or in any area, they always bring the face of a black man, so you can blame the black man for the evil that is coming. Remember, I told you to save this video for reference. Apart from all these soaring gas prices all over the place, you're going to see a situation where power outages will become a norm in the Western world. There's going to be darkness everywhere, because the devil is the king of darkness. As he makes his entry into our world, darkness will permeate everywhere. Power outage will become a norm in not just the Western world, but in different parts of the world. Are you ready for all of this? Food shortages, scarcity, it's going to be crazy. Let's prepare ahead of time. I can only pray for you as I pray for myself, that God will give us the grace and the strength to prepare so that we are not taken unawares.
A lot of people has been speculating that the Pope will be replaced by a Nigerian cardinal who happens to be Cardinal Opaleke. I don't know about that. It's just a prediction. So I got to hear about it. So these two predictions have come to pass right now as we speak. Queen Elizabeth died, and Pope Francis just died today. So I can't wait to see who replaces Pope Francis. And yeah, let's see what happens in the coming days or in the nearest future.
And expectedly, I have received a lot of emails from so many people asking me, Brother Joseph, is this what you were talking about when you told us that Pope Francis will be replaced by a black man? So here's what happened. There's a Nigerian bishop by the name Peter Okpaleke who has just been made a cardinal at the Vatican City. Now, the news about this guy is that some time ago, not long ago, the Pope had posted this guy from his base in Anambra State, okay? I think it was Oka in Anambra State. Anambra is in the eastern part of Nigeria. So he was posted from there to another diocese of the Catholic Church in Ahiara, which is in Imo State, another eastern Nigerian state, right? And the people from this Ahiara diocese rejected him outrightly and said they didn't want him to be their bishop. And this was trending all over the place. That's how the guy became very famous in the news. Everywhere you turned, you saw something about the Okpaleke who was rejected by the Ahiara diocese. Now, after they rejected him, the guy was sent back to Anambra State. I think he ended up in another diocese in Ekulobia, okay, in Anambra State. Now, what happened was that just a few days ago, August the 27th, if I'm not mistaken, the guy was made a cardinal in the Catholic Church at the Vatican City. Now, when this happened, a lot of people started sending me emails. Brother Joseph, is this what you were talking about? Is this guy going to be the Black Pope? Well, I'm not going to tell you yes or no, but I'm going to tell you what I think is happening with this guy becoming a cardinal. Now, the only way we can understand this is to get a background story on this. The guy who has just been made a cardinal is a prodigy of a man called Cardinal Arinze. Cardinal Arinze was born in 1932, yeah? So that means that Arinze is supposed to be about 90 years this year. So he is arguably the oldest black cardinal in the Vatican City. And so he cannot become Pope anymore. Now, if this cardinal, new Cardinal Okpaleke, is a prodigy of Cardinal Arinze, and Arinze is his godfather, so he is more like a spiritual son to Arinze. My thinking here is, what if the slot to become the next black pope is supposed to be Arinze's, which he has now missed on account of his old age, and Arinze has been mandated to appoint a person who is more like a spiritual son that the Catholic Church can make a pope, so the person becomes historically the first black pope in the history of the Catholic Church. This was the first thing that hit me when this whole thing happened, that Arinze may have, because initially, and I'm going to take you back, just give me a minute. Initially, when I was talking about that whole black pope thing, I told us that I got an intelligence information from my source who told me categorically that Francis is too ill to continue as the Pope of the Catholic Church. And that any moment from now, between now and the end of the year, according to my source, that Francis is going to be leaving and that he will be replaced by a black Pope. What I believe I heard, which may be wrong, and I said it in my second video that I may actually be wrong, but what I believe I heard was that this was going to be a black man replacing Pope Francis. And like I said again, it may be wrong, but this is what I believe that I heard from my source. Okay? And so when that happened, I began to think to myself, maybe the only two qualified candidates, eminently qualified, will be Cardinal Arinze and the Ghanaian Cardinal Turkson. Now, the thing is that Turkson stood a better chance of becoming a pope because he is much younger. But only on December of 2021, last year, Turkson actually resigned from the post that he held at the Vatican, and by now he has actually gotten to the age where he will no longer be able to be made Pope. Okay? This was last year. So Thaksin is already out of the way. Arinze is out of the way. And now I began to think to myself, if these two people are not there, they're not going to be it, who is that potential Pope that could come from the African continent to replace Pope Francis? If what I heard from my source is anything to go by. And then suddenly this Okpaleke happened. That's why I began to think to myself, could this be what is unfolding? Maybe they have told Arinze, since you have been here all these years and you eminently qualified and you were not able to get it, can we just compensate you? Just much like what happened with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the presidential frontrunner for the APC party in Nigeria. When Buhari was about to become president, he was appointed to be his VP, his vice presidential candidate, yeah? But unfortunately, because both of them are Muslims, and there's something that Nigerian constitution frowns against, which is the Muslim ticket, as we call it in Nigeria. Because of that, he was told, no, you can't go, because we have, of course, a lot of Christians in Nigeria, a lot of Muslims in Nigeria, and you're now going to have two Muslims becoming president and vice president. So because of that, they said, you can't carry on with Buhari, but we can allow you to appoint someone who will take your place and become the vice president, you know, of Nigeria. And that was how we got the guy we have there today, Yemi Osinbajo, as the vice president of Nigeria. It was Tinubu who appointed him. So I'm thinking, this is my own wild guess, that this may be what has happened, where they told Arinze to appoint this guy. So the idea is, or my answer to all these questions that people are asking is, him, and I mean Okpaleke, becoming the next Pope of the Catholic Church, or the first black Pope of the Catholic Church in history, is 50-50. I can tell you it's going to happen. I cannot tell you it won't happen. Because, you know, the reason I believe this may actually be the case is, as at the time he became a cardinal, there were about 208 cardinals in the Catholic Church. And only 117 of them were electors, had voting powers to elect a pope. Because once you become a cardinal, you are a potential pope. You are just one step away from becoming a pope. The cardinals, what do? They basically just elect popes from amongst themselves, okay? So you can see this guy, from just being involved in some squabbles in the eastern part of Nigeria, is now one step away from becoming a pope. Are you kidding me? So now, from 208, 21 more cardinals were made by Pope Francis, and Okpaleke happened to be one of them. And because there were only 117 electors before these 21 cardinals were made, we now got information that after they made these 21 cardinals, about the number of electors in the cardinal fold had risen by about 20 to 21, which then means automatically that virtually all the cardinals that were made by Pope Francis are going to become electors, including Okpaleke. That's a lot of jump from where this guy was, man. And so this is why I was saying to myself that the chances of him becoming the next Pope of the Catholic Church is 50-50. So people who were suspecting that this may be what is going on are not wrong. And it could also be that the next Pope of the Catholic Church is going to be the Black Pope, as in the head of the Jesuit order. Whichever way you look at it, whoever is coming after Francis is going to have some black attached to them. It's either a black man Pope or a black Pope who is the head of the Jesuit order.